I'll just say that I have these printed in a way that I hope that you don't notice too much, the breaks between the poems. And I will leave space, and that's not because I want you to applaud or anything else. I think the silence in these poems is important as the words. I thought starving would make me want to live again. It was a few weeks before I applied. I hadn't been hungry in months. I ate anyway, force of habit, like checking your phone or getting the name of someone you don't miss stuck in your head anyway. I was dutifully seeking out joys and finding only residue of who I used to be. You say a sentence enough times in your head and it feels true forever. I was afraid my suffering was the most interesting thing about me. I am ready to see what the world thinks of me. By the world, I mean some parts of America. More of them understand me now. I am only one of those who has watched every episode. We've known about them for a while, live reunion shows. Deeper, I am of the ones watching for the shift between orange light and blue, the noise our companion, the imagined misery of bug welts and sand everywhere and clinging to a pole in the rain. Challenges designed to hurt, announced gleefully for us. I have never been hungry while I watched. Machine of no time, help me pass through all these seasons of grief. Make a morality play about how the wicked survive. I'm still here. Every sin a blip, the moment of silence for massacred children, the on and off screen assaults, choosing to wound someone, saying it's just a game. I want you to imagine a torch somewhere. Tell me, is it in your hand? Marooned. At home, I prefer chaos when I feel unsafe. I cultivate it, allowing dust bunnies to camp out along the baseboards. Let the dishes pile up, which takes a while when the cat and I each only use one plate most days. Maybe I should start calling pizza my wet food. On the beach, chaos is everywhere, and you can see the emergency in my skin. Blisters red. I have chosen to send myself to my personal hell, direct sunlight. I don't know if I'll make it long enough to grow on people, even though I could always make a friend in minutes. That's when I hid. I've been training myself out of introversion and practicing smiling. My mom hated this show. I hope I don't make it to the family visit. I am well loved, but it isn't enough for me. I'm here to understand what makes someone a survivor. Since I'm stuck in a heartache I can't recognize. There's something alien in me, too much. I'm like Keith, season blank. If you asked my buddies if I was more likely to be in Fiji or on the moon, they'd say the moon, maybe, but probably they'd frown because I have made peace many times with being 1,000 miles from home, but more than that, it hurts. But then my home is gone. I ended up here. I'm alone, even if a bug crawls inside my ear or rats run across my face. I thought I would feel more when I saw Jeff, but my dad wears a blue shirt better, I think, as I realize this show could go on forever. I was never really survivor material. I joked that I would play the game in air conditioning, that I would need a private room with a door that closed. My friends say you already work in an office. But the part that would be good, the manipulator, she needs her escape. But not quiet, not necessarily. I crowd out thoughts with audiobooks, going to the movies for a break from me. Some people think me bubbly, they aren't counting my long stretches alone. I don't have a partner. I travel with my family or alone to stay with friends. I have different group texts to workshop anxiety mitigation strategies, to tease through a theme, test out a theory. I cannot imagine my life without a phone. I need satellites to connect with people, a teleporter off my cold and distant star. Maybe here is where I think the island could be good for me. Thunder and lightning. I find a place in my mind, remember Top Chef Season 16 Kentucky. The hometown favorite is talking about this dish of quick pickled tomatoes and cucumbers picked just before a big storm comes. The challenge has to do with Muhammad Ali. She's talking about punches. I am there with her, the projection of her. This memory holds me. How? I am not in the body, in the jungle, in the rain. I am with my cat in the bed, warm and soft. I have to outsource my processing. The human mind is only so useful, it loves to run tape. I feed it Sarah from the Big Blue Nation, my imaginary friend still here. What does that word even mean, imaginary? I wouldn't say I'm good at make-believe, unless you count dissociation. I used to call my best friend in the mornings before work, anytime after 6 Pacific. She leaves her phone in the bathroom overnight. The incredible blessing of seeing your loves' homes, knowing what their mornings look like, imagining the days you are apart, that you are together still somehow. I used to sleep alone, and I know I will again. I'm not sure I call the nights your sleep anyway. I used to say that I like sitting on the ground, but now I know better. I like to sit on the floor. I had taken evenness for granted. I would have told you that I don't get headaches. I used to drink a gallon of water a day in air conditioning. I used to wear earplugs when I slept by a snorer. I used to get out of bed if I could even hear a bug buzzing. I used to know what I needed, or at least what I thought would help, but I used to think things could help. I can't stay out of the sun. I can't take a walk in the dark. I can't go to the bathroom and close the door for just a few minutes just to be alone. I can't understand how anyone thinks of this as a game, by which I mean plans out of strategy. Plans! I used to pride myself on packing everything I needed for a day away from home. I mean, even remembering my lunch at work, even on the smallest errands, the walk to the corner store. I tried to choose the right clothes to wear. Out here, the bamboo, the dirty clothes, the insects, the heat, the chatter, the noise and breath of others, popping embers, burrs, the hunger, the ocean as bathroom, the injuries. None of them care what happens to me. And no one who loves me can picture me here. No one alive, I correct myself. I have to feel for myself out here. A lot of bosses like to say this place is like a family. All of us cast and crew here for a check. I still bristle at thinking of myself as cast or tribe, but I fake it okay. I don't struggle with castaway, but deep down, I know my people. One of the roots, my face, like so many other faces far from here. I decided I may be a tree after all. No one frets over whether a tree is with its one true love. In the bad years, I used my phone as a text tree. Copy, paste, update, wait for sympathies, hopes, affirmation. Here I have to sort out all for myself what's worth sharing. I watch the others, warm eye contact, offer to fetch, be a good sister. I know I stink, but I try to pretend if I smile, I can be as pretty as my mom in pearls, comforting as a tree trunk, that I can mimic what I've lost, and it can make people love me. Make them love me. Please, let's call it a sign that if I can make people love me, that I can stop worrying. I have never stopped. I have only buried, and now here I must dig through sands for bags of puzzle pieces, dive underwater, and unlatch a set of floating balloons. Our effort a spectacle, narrated, and I am not the one telling the story. I think the other castaways respect me. As I said, I'm good at shrinking when I need to be part of a family. Who knows what Jeff thinks? How will America see some parts of me? I know things I can't feel. I lived in a house with 4 family members and still felt like an island. When you are safe but never feel safe, you can use symbols or logic puzzles, mnemonic devices to remember who is never a threat, a scary phrase to even utter. I thought I'd do okay on the island because I'm always on one. I know I can make people love me. I can make almost anyone. If I can find a spark to gently blow on, and I can design codes, symbol systems to test their intentions. My advantage is that I spent a lot of time trying to look strong when I felt like dying. My luck. How do I tell you about my luck? It's not like I have a loyalty to blind faith. I am missing the part that helps me feel. I don't know if it broke or I turned it off. But I'm still here, and the trust codes still work, and the end is in sight, my end. I am saying my Hail Marys, I'll make it to the jury. I think it would be good for me to even pretend to weigh evidence. Is that true? Who cares? Make-believe can be healing. Survivor hates quitters. Jeff says, you don't come for the adventure, you don't come to make the jury, you come to win. I can make Jeff like me, even if I'm not a winner. I will throw myself into this. I will make my body remember this for the rest of my life. It will be new. And by new, I mean transformed by age and injury. I needed a complex metaphor for total suffering. A survivor falls hands first into the fire. Another cries every day. No one sleeps more than 3 or 4 hours a night, usually 2. Toenails fall off and we wash our wounds with boiled well water. I am not surprised a human body can survive 2 weeks without food, but I don't tell anyone how I know. How to take it slow when you feel dizzy. I'm used to ignoring my pains, but I had to tune in. I can't miss a clue. The body kicks out of consciousness if you don't listen. At tribal council, I sit in the back and remember every day at work in the bad years. How I could sit there in a million pieces, and if no one touched me or the wind wasn't too strong, I could have stayed up. No, I did stay up. I stayed up, and when I can't smile, I press my lips together or look down, and yes, Jeff calls on me, but I can figure it out. I make sentences and I memorize key phrases on the ride over, and it's okay to be discombobulated as long as it's genuine. Besides, Jeff loves to move on. Thanks, guys.
I'm going to cut most of what I had to say about this poem on the front end. What I'll say is this. It's for my maternal grandmother my paternal grandmother, Elizabeth Terry Jennings, and it's called Stone Bridge and Laughter. Grandma's birthday was February 21st, and this Mardi Gras day was one of the first that I didn't find myself inexplicably sad until I remembered it was her birthday. Omnia Gallia est divisa in tres partes. Julius Caesar. 1. How can you be gone? Trees branch a spiral staircase and up onto the landing outside the kitchen. Elder voices, wrinkled hands, applesauce simmering on the stove. I stand unseen, enfolded by memory like wet wings on a butterfly. See their crazed print glistening in the dim. I will unfurl and fly to meet you. I ask too much, I know. But in this in-between time, I feel as if I'm losing my grip. On what? Who knows? What have I grasped? What fragile life have I held in my meaty mitts, scored with lifetimes like highways built for fleas? Each memory a furred creature with jeweled eyes and cabot haunches, birthed from my convulsing throat. Lately, my dreams feel incomplete. A concert for a band I don't care for, but the music is not as I remember. Instead, there is an absence of sound, of spirit, of communication. Is that you? Is this how you reach for me? What of the dream where I returned to Paramaribo to live in a Tunisian villa where the owner, wanted for murder, hid secretly on the grounds? Or was that Mexico? You never went to Mexico. I thought of you today as I wrote about our trip across the Suriname River into French Guiana. The sky fell, and the rain, like nails, drenched us all in seconds. Wheelchair folded like a paper crane in the back of our canoe, and your face upturned in the stormy light to the battering drops, and that smile. 2. How can you be gone? How can you be gone from me? I have so much yet to ask. Your passport sits in my bedroom, on the bookcase, right by the bathroom door. Sometimes I look at it and handle it when I feel I'm losing your face or the sound of your voice, and I hear that bellowing call from downstairs where your voice bent at the top, but your eyes are nowhere on me. My life, my identity have not kept you from me. Nothing has. There are dreams I can't recall, further realms than I can call to mind, and there, at the deepest, the almost deepest center of my labyrinth memory, where the serpent's head meets the tail, we stand together on an ancient stone bridge neither of us knew in life. It kneels like a squire before his queen, ready for the accolade, and we speak in hushed tones broken by sudden barks. My memory of you is not aged, not leather-skinned or always tired or enfeebled after your stroke, when for a week I watched your breath in the hotel room, certain you would leave me then, that you would rush past me out the door, not even bothering to close it after you, and I'd be left alone in your absence to feel the hole where you've been in the middle of the air, and I wouldn't know what to do, whom to call, alone, abandoned. But you stayed. Your eyes rolled, and you clasped my hand in yours, your wrinkled skin so soft, and we said nothing of that room again. So, 3. In the end, you were like a space shuttle preparing to launch, unmooring your bright and feathered spirit from the scaffold. Your body, your frailty, I couldn't believe, I wouldn't. You were ill, but as every other time you would shrug it off, say, it's only liquid sunshine, and charge on over rutted jungle roads into the little French colony with its candy-colored houses and impossibly old men in straw hats with skin so brown it was less a color than a geologic feature, scoured by wind and time. When I sat to write this verse, you were a blankness, absent to me, silent. But as I worked the stony words, your image resolved into view, youthful once more, looking out across water and laughing for me in your white dress and crimson cape. Like a paper boat, this vision floated downstream to me. I lifted it to my waiting, hungry heart like language, like story and the word. One more gift from you. Well, all right.
Yeah.
Let's see. I have so many. I didn't do a good job of deciding what to read beforehand. Every time I made a decision, I opened up something else and was like, no, this instead. But I guess that's just how my brain works. All right, so next, I'm going to read a poem called Cells Dots. This one appeared in some online magazine or other. I don't remember which. Desert air and answering heated dark, hotel chill, shortness of breath, round as peaches, gravid with lust, fingertips against my back, small grooming punches, dollish mitts and voluminous tailored dresses, 4 years to the month, and I trailing behind you on baking streets, an apartment carved from ice, unless the AC rests from time to time, Egyptian poets, secret petroglyphs, mad hikes to Walgreens, my space capsule, my lunar lander, walk with me on nothing, read your boss's essay and I'll trade for Trunk's treasure, gleaming sympathy your eyes. You wailed in the night and I held you against me. I felt then that I gave you something at least. Saw the grief in you that is not you. And in that understanding, I read your goosebumps like Braille. All right. This one is called In the Hand. Yours are sparrows. One day they'll turn to crabs, cripping sidewise beneath a red arthritic sun. Naked flight, noise of one wing flapping, forcing parts of speech, knit a silent flesh. O keys and locks, tumblers turn, connect me, nor stench of yearning page. I don't recall what I wished for on my star, if not to kiss you, to smear upon the stammering sky. Please be all right, all right, all right. Please be all right for me, for you, for us both, for once.
Sweet. Yeah.
Woo! There's so many. I think I'm going to read next a poem that I wrote for my girlfriend. If I can find it. I swear, for 12 and a half years, I didn't write any poetry. And then all of a sudden, it just came in a flood, and I actually managed to get some people's attention with it, which was not a thing I ever thought would happen. I sold a total of 3 poems after my training at the Evergreen State College, made about $500, and that was all the money I thought would ever come to me from poetry. But anyway, so this poem is called Catchy.
Is this the girlfriend thing?
This is the girlfriend.
Okay, because you couldn't back down from that because That's what we were waiting for.
No. Once I say it, I gotta do it. The Radiohead, the Coast Contra, the broadcast down, meet at the corner of the cold sack. Long dark bodies shadow among trees, the fading light, slanting egg yolk sunbeams, speaking in tongues, in the language of dream, Ali Ali, know it when you hear it. Lift the darkness of your lip, and eyes are lamps in the dim. Your brown is depthless, fathom on fathom, and suck the curl of your lip. I drink your nectar like water from the Lethe, where only my body remembers, the Tartarus, the negative Hades, by which I mean I burn and burn for you. I was once mute, but yearned to sing and declaim. The wise woman told me, roast 9 smooth stones in the hearth and swallow them all to make your voice strong and sweet as stolen honey. I told you I wanted you, and you glared softly at me, said, prove it, and we kissed the first time. God's gift and royal, the pom-poms and dancing, the setup, the punchline. Grow with me until I can show you this verse.
Nice.
That was good.
How am I doing for time?
1 or 2.
Okay. All right. So, this is one of the first poems that I ever placed anywhere, and it's called Mitzelpitlik. It's named after that Superman villain, the fifth dimensional imp who can only be banished if he's tricked into saying his name backwards. Some words mean the opposite of their definitions. Finery, horror, forgetfulness, loss. An echo is not sound, but the sound of sound. It's memory. These words fold backwards from the air, fashioned like aluminum petals by brittle voices, sipped like drugged drink. They damage the brain, derange the senses. What is my vocabulary? Am I not what I am? Am I my best guess? The limit of my imperfect senses? The backyard speech of a 4-color sorceress? The backward speech of a 4-color sorceress. I am not. I am not. I am not. Once I stood beside a wooded path and watched the dead boys rise from hidden graves, falling in reverse, their shattered skulls knitting, their kissed-on wounds closing lips, unmurdered by stones, unmourned by healed parents. The past has not passed. The body's unrest. A secret is not a secret if it remains untold. What is the nonsense incantation that rolls the stone away? What word replaces the thylacines in their burrows? If I knew that silent language, I'd unmake my memories of you, unwound you, unmortify spirit flesh, and you would never have saved me. Listen, listen, a lived boy's whistle, walking backwards among the trees, marching with their backs turned home. All right, last one. This one is called Smoke Child. And that's all I'll say about that. No concrete blanket, unmade bed in darkness, restaurant bathroom stall, wad of blood in Kansas City, a mass, no humor, no flushing and hardness on soft white palm. I stand beside mother, palm resting against the small of her cold spine, and dead caresses there, sigh and gurgle of machinery, split heart and consternation, Pretend you don't know me. We never pass on the street. O pain, O grief of my heart, human sacrifice or witch-burnt sorcery, a conjuring memory of quiet and shoe pairs tangled in bayou trees. Walk beside me, the lie, I did nothing wrong. I must water your final grave and the life that almost sprang from nothing.
How the torturers come to truth. On the wall, the sergeant writes a word you've never heard before we tell its story. We come to truth as you first learn the sentence. Can you explain the meaning of this passage? The word sinks through you, leaves a hole to bury not the meaning, but the body. We come to truth the way you learn your body has been defined by lawful hands and words. We thread our wires deeper into your holes to teach you what your role is in our story. You'll learn no cipher guarantees safe passage when you are not the author of your sentence. We come to truth as fragments of a sentence because the mutterings of nobody echoed all night along the passage after the slow dissection of your word. Across the land, the ending of your story crawls back to fall more bloody in its hole. We come to truth. We look into the hole. Hair, teeth, excrement. We make a sentence to hold what isn't there. Inside the story, someone's pulled a sheet across your body, now muddled in the shadows like a word erased in the dark, fouling the passage where you'll come to truth. This sealed off passage that serves as well as any other hole. If someone asks about you, there's no word. The desert spreads before us like a sentence erased by morning, no trace of the body that might insist on telling its own story. Truth comes, of course, telling its crazy story of which it cannot verify one passage. Like a bullet as it leaves the body, without memory of blood, bone, or hole, we hear the judge pronouncing one more sentence against our enemy, your word. Listen, our story is all that keeps us whole. Every bent passage, each bruised sentence breaks our bodies on the truth of the word. Thank you. That is from my collection, Parasite Kingdom, which was my last book. And I've got that in copies of, I think, Motion Studies over there. Everything else I'm going to read tonight is going to be totally different from that. But I've been finishing up work on a new book, and I've really been thinking about the contrast between my last book and this next book. So that last book is set in this, it's really kind of a work of speculative poetry set in this imaginary kingdom, and everything is very dark. And this other book is, for the first time since my first book of poems, it's just a collection of lyric poems. And here's the first poem from it. How I Am Whole. Some days I just want to be an idea. Form, duration, écriture. But my body keeps getting me lost in things. Mist so white it brightens my classroom windows before thickening into rain. The slow darkening of rue in its iron pot as I stir until my shoulder aches. The hidden heat in carnation petals. And I love sex so much, I believe the body does just fine without ideas. Yesterday, an artist asked for the story of my body. As her studio skylight filled with snow, I remembered a porch in late summer and me, 6 or 7, standing shirtless by the screen door, feeling the glow of the whole day inside me and thinking, I want to remember this. Thank you. This next poem is for my husband, who is hiding back there. And this is a very new poem called The Gardener. The gardener. My grandmother laughed when I'd squat while playing in the yard, poking a spoon at the dirt, a little prissy as I plucked fleabane's puny starburst blooms to decorate graves I dug for pillbugs, whose armor coiled shut when my fingertip pushed them under. They opened, hauled themselves out. I wiped my fingers on the grass. Hours later, the smell of earth, or was it me, lingered. My husband laughs when I come in for lunch, boots muddy, knees caked, face smudged, babbling, fritillaries, carpenter bees, and we need more bags of soil for the white sage and salvias I'll plant. Boots by the door, clothes by the washer, he says, ladling out bowls of gumbo. I kiss his neck, inhale his spice, and again, fleabane's blooms turn to white tufted globes. My breath blows bare. Didn't really end up writing that many pandemic poems, and this one came way later. And just thinking about all the marvelous experiences that we ended up having in this city. I mean, in the midst of tragedy. So this is called One Friday Afternoon, New Orleans, June 2020. A tuba's thump and pulse sends ripples through lockdown hush. A drum taps, a trumpet jumps in, calling me to stop refreshing pandemic data graphs and clips of George Floyd protests. And to honor my friend still recovering from being hit in the head by a tear gas can that did not exist, cops claim, so was not fired. To honor a high school friend's mother, a nurse who died in a hospital bed one floor down from her dying husband, I put on my mask, walk outside to follow the brass band's blare to the house whose porch is their stage. They are glad to see us. Me, my husband, our neighbors, Dean and Barb, Amy and Greg, moms with strollers, a pink-haired, pink-masked girl, and the friends who push her wheelchair. We sway, dance, drop dollars in the tip bucket. A silver-haired woman in a tie-dye dress steps closer, hands raised as the tuba player blows and sweats and the band swerves from Liza Jane into something none of us has ever heard, this moment's answer to our need. A cruiser crawls by, light bar flashing. I spent 28 years as a classroom teacher, K-12, and maybe not surprisingly, the teacher poems came later. Somehow I wrote a lot of other poems, but not teacher poems. So this poem is dedicated to my students, and it is called "What is the Future of Ubisunt?" Monday morning light on empty tables, glinting on the legs of chairs I stacked. Friday evening, so Harold could mop. I'm looking over poems for workshop, thinking about these students whose stories have just begun, whose lives will be histories I'll never read. Kendall writes of garden parties, pooled with beer and rank with blunts. Her father's fingers bruised her throat but couldn't choke her words back down. She writes, "A caterpillar's first meal is its eggshell." Nights after school, she scans groceries at Bromart while she imagines pages for chapbooks. A tornado smashed Taylor's house but left her poetry books intact and shelved, including the one she spent months making, sewing photos in, binding its pages with yarn. She danced step with Kendall freshman year, is polite with white kids who say dumb shit like, HBCUs seem kind of racist. It's tiresome, she says, voice calm as a cloud on the horizon before we start our discussion of Citizen. Zeke taught Moby Dick in pantomime, playing Pip cast overboard and Stubbs' rush to kill. Pip adrift, head bobbing above water, watches horizons zero widen, intense concentration of self in the middle of such heartless immensity. Zeke flailed, circled by tables standing in for the world's receding edges, eyes flashing, hair floating as he sank, and invisible boats hunted their prey, leaving me to learn. Daily, I must watch. They must row away from here to save themselves. A bell, doors bang, stairwell, voices swell. I glance around the room before they arrive. Everything clean, as always, everything ready. Oh, I'm getting my 12-minute sign from my helpful partner back there. Alrighty. So I'm going to skip the two most depressing poems, besides that first one. Okay. So for those of us who have taught, we know it's like, there are teaching prompts and stuff that get passed around and they just won't fucking die. They won't go away. So there was one of those that was stuck in my head and I couldn't get away from it, and finally I had to write a poem to get rid of it. So this is called No Pity, Thanks, Just Buy Them. In the market for sturdy footwear for my imaginary life, I find this ad tucked in the classifieds. For sale, baby shoes, never worn. Perfect! I check my bank balance, grab my phone, no number listed. Wait! I already know this story, and I cringe just seeing it toddle toward me one more time. I came, I died, I cried. No one can fill those shoes. If the shoe fits, you're dead. My mother kept my baby shoes, just like yours, just like you. I've forgotten what carton they're in. I guess she liked holding them. How far my child has gone. But she never had to know. Nothing worked out, and we're old, in our ill-fitting suits of regret, trying to remember, to imagine her, peering down into those shallow wells or graves or little ears filled with the silence of empty space. I've got two more. This next one is also a teacher poem, but it came out of a dream, really and truly, and I just ran with it. It's called The Map. Last night I dreamed I grabbed a student, nice kid who never shuts up, by his belt loops and the collar of his jeans jacket and hurled him down the stairs. I woke in a sweat. Today I'm thinking it's time to move on. I have called the secretary and she hopes I will get well soon. I have allowed myself, with toast and coffee, a shot of rye. The mind clears. A garbage truck groans down the block, and I brood on the days I've missed its song, pent with 26 fiends in a cinder block fluorescent lit classroom adorned with scotch-taped quotes like, I was born lost and take no pleasure in being found. My neighbor starts his yard work, pushing his push mower soothingly, hush, hush, until his cranked up leaf blower kills this pastoral. I really need to use those days piled up like leaves or mail by the door. High time I get far away. Farther, not Vegas, maybe Spain. Or I could blend in on a Holy Land tour. I'd need Candles, bug spray, cured flesh to chew, and cash for the for the toll at the Martyr's Bridge, the ticket to the Martyr's house, the tip for the docent. No truths revealed at a discount, friend, least of all when I need it most. I need a map, but I'm a child who couldn't name the river that was never meant to drown him. And who's left to imagine the river but the river's ghost? Thank you.
Last time I ran outside New York City after the show, someone came up to me and said, "I don't know what they do in New York, but you should give us a trigger warning for drugs and sex and adult language." So, I'll be responsible. Here's your trigger warning, because this first one has at least 2 of those things in it. This is called Taking the Piss, Clinton Era, near Central Station, or Détente, a true story. I was breaking up buds and rolling some joints over breakfast espresso in the lobby bar in the Backpacker Hotel that was home away from home, off and on in Amsterdam, back when the dollar was strong and we were living large. Some British kids were watching across the window table that overlooked Crimson Rock, my preferred spot, day or night, watching the movement of canal boats and bicycles against skinny brick buildings in a Dutch clouded sky. One, early 20s, turned to me. He said, "In American films, they're always talking about eggs over easy. What are eggs over easy? We don't have those at home." So I explained about flipping the sunny side and keeping it yellow runny. 2 more questions. What do you call it if you don't want them runny? Over hard? And why are you rolling joints like that? Mixing the weeds, no tobacco, no filter. Isn't it strong? Isn't it harsh? I guess over well, but how the fuck should I know? I like them easy and runny. And I like mixing weeds for flavor variety. And I don't come from hash culture, so habits of filter and tobacco never arose, and they're my fucking joints, and I'll fucking roll them however I fucking want, and if you fucking don't like it, you can fuck off. 1 beat of silence, maybe another. I thought all Americans were wankers, but you're all right, mate. So we had Guinness for breakfast and passed a joint, no tobacco, no filter, yes strong, not harsh, and international relations were slightly improved. And this is called microhabitat. Turn it over. Earwigs and pillbugs and millipede scurry. 8-legged spiders and ants of all sizes from the sudden light, the cold blast of wind. Do you feel your power yet? Do you feel life and death at your command? Maybe you're the crown of creation, the crown chakra of the biosphere, the mind of the universe watching itself watch itself, will in action, will incarnate. Or maybe your rock just hasn't been turned over yet. Yeah, no, don't force yourself. This is called magical thinking on a metaphorical Coney Island. Watch the waves, in-rolls and out-rolls, in-rolls and out-rolls. In-rolls and out-rolls, watch the tide, the waterline waltz along the shore, sizing the beach in nested arcs, silver-driven, moon-dappled. Watch the boardwalk, encrusted in sun-killed salt, hard against your back, heavy with sighs and if-onlys, smelling of Nathan's hot dogs, coconut and brine, a hint of childhood barely remembered, and all the choices you've made. Because here, against the boardwalk pillar, salt-scratched and shaded, you want a moment to say, here. Here is where I said a wrong word, ignored a clear sign, zigged instead of zagged, and then pick up some driftwood to scratch in the sand, a blueprint, a castle, a magical tower with a Coney Island ending. But those Coney Islands are bullshit. If only's a liar. This high tide breaker against the beach is the only high tide breaker against the beach. A wave will never unroll. Only in-rolls and out-rolls, in-rolls and out-rolls, moonlit and silver-edged. High tide comes running in. Listen. And this is actually, I don't know if you know the author Ruth Ozeki, but I took a story from hers and turned it into a poem. So if you like it, thank her. It's called When Rengetsu's Teacup Dropped. Priceless pottery, ripe with shibui, simplicity, subtlety, almost uncrafted in sublimity, like life. Held lightly, with almost rustic reverence for imperfection, wabi and sabi, mono no aware, anti-porcelain in form, quiet, humble, zen. Falling to the floor in a heart-stopping moment, saved by the simple nap of the rug from disaster, Master Hojo smiled, already broken. It didn't break, already broken. It's the nature of teacups to break, of all things to break. This cup, beautiful now, because it will be broken tomorrow, like life. It would break many years later, but unlike lives lost, gilded easily, kintsugi into new beauty, already broken. Feel the simple teacup in your hand, of your hand. Know it's beautiful now and already broken. All right, well, this one's very new. I don't know yet, but we'll see. It's called The Tai Chi, Monads, and They. They say one can't know light without dark, joy without sadness, pleasure without pain. I say they fear bliss after an overdose of Calvinism and capitalism, cracked heads and broken hearts, or being just magnificently human. They say you can't have one without the other. I say, sure as hell would like to try. It's true, man, it's true. Eminence. The praying mantis mounted the Petunia pulpit and proclaimed, "Lo, eminence precedes imminence. Lo, life is eminent. Without a prime mover, without a source, there is no life. Lo, your carapace is not empty, an empty shell, but instead a vessel for the spirit, a dragonfly wing. Tremble before the source. You are but an ant before the source. Allow the divine to grasp all six hands and take you as if you're an aphid." The ladybug buzzed by, unheeding. No one's got time for this shit, she thought. I used to have a penchant for really short poems with really long titles, so this is an old one of those. This is called The Actual Words of My Oh-So-Jewish Mother as I try to explain the explosions of feelness and feelings of oneness with life as I fell deeper and deeper into states of awareness and actualization on the Bodhi path. My son, now he's a tree. True story. And here's a devotional poem called Like Paul on the Road to Damascus, like Siddhartha under the Bodhi tree. I'm not religious by nature, but oh, your ass. You gotta find religion where you can, man. This is what I'm saying. Definitely. Pacific Coast Highway, 1970. The summer I was 9. We drove along the PCH, winding curves and the ocean breaking far below, and I discovered a new kind of fear gnawing inside. So I asked my dad, what if we zig when we're supposed to zag? And he laughed. Not cruelly. My father was not a cruel man, he was loving. Joy-filled, despite a life that included concentration camps and illness and fear and all the trials and tribulations a life can bring. He laughed because he had an adult understanding of highways and cars and intentionality and deep-seated, hard-earned adult's sort of fear that obscured the fears a child can fear. Now, I'm 20 years older than he was then, and I'm not so sure I ever outgrew those childhood fears. I marvel that that man in his 40s drove that car like he drove his life, with joy and intention, destination overshadowing the rearview mirror, while I, in my 60s, still wonder if I've zigged when I should have zagged. All right, a couple political ones. This one's called The promise wasn't just flying cars and 3D TVs. We were raised in that golden moment between the pill and AIDS. When the rain-slicked streets pulsed bodies and beats, neon reflections, sidewalks and minds, and wind-etched skin, and the gray faces were in retreat. There are betrayals that are worse, much worse than lies. When truths become undone, love, a weapon deadly, unwittingly turned on ourselves, friendly fire, candor, and a kiss. Almost as sad as the beautiful dead are those who name each death as victory and vindication, and name the world suffering, who name joy sin. But let us not name them pale and bloodless and of little worth. Let's dance instead. Let's dance instead. Let's dance instead. Crouched in pain, bounding in jubilation, screaming defiance, arms outthrust and not akimbo. Kick and scratch and stroke and slide, writhe and spin. Riot, riot, riot. Remember those who were with those who still are. Films are in 3D now. I saw a flying car the other day. The future is always a gift we give ourselves. Just tug on the ribbon like this. And I never watched the last season of Man in the High Castle, so I'm going through it again. It's sort of put me in mind of this poem I wrote a while ago. It's called, I keep reminding myself that while Man in the High Castle is a cautionary tale for most and a rear view for some, there are people out there for whom it's Lord of the Rings. I got a D+ in white. My wife's a B-. She's white in New York. In New Hampshire, she's ethnic. My parents fled Europe to escape the tradition of pogrom and smokestack, and I'm almost glad my father's passed, and I'm almost glad of my mother's dementia, so they couldn't see blood and soil chanters called upstanding citizens from the White House lawn. And I'm almost glad my father's passed, and I'm almost glad of my mother's dementia, so they didn't see a Pittsburgh man visit a bris, shout all Jews must die, and spray death like water in a garden of flowers. A melting pot is a cauldron of poison, insisting sameness is strength. Again, the melting pot myth is a cauldron, insisting sameness is strength. Strength is cross-pollination in populations and philosophies and families. Purity is death. That goes for gene pools and mean pools. Purity is death. Tolerance is not the high ground. It's a basic minimum. You don't want your lover, neighbor, very best friend to say, I tolerate you. That would be bad. Race isn't real, but racism is. Another very new one. Someone told me, what the fuck are you writing? But I wrote this anyway. Kolkata, 1987. Kolkata is what Calcutta is named in Bengali. Kolkata, 1987. Drinking chai on the banks of the Hooghly River. Not even 2K from the Mother House mission, with expats and travelers and motley and sundry, with that sort of roundabout conversation found freewheeling the road. I was asked, what's an unpopular opinion you hold? I nodded towards the children begging the streets and said, I'd like to punch Mother Teresa right in the gut. Apparently shocking so close to her sanctum, where she might well have been right at that time. If any place ever needed birth control sanctioned and condoms distributed at every church door and abortion vouchers for any who needed, it was right there in the heart of Bengal, where Mother Teresa glorified suffering and chained children to beds to bring them closer to God, ill-fed and ailing, while she cashed the checks of despots and dictators and ate off their gold plates. Quite humbly, I'm sure. All the while smiling as another 100 children, born blessed to suffer in the name of her Savior, because condoms were evil and abortion a sin, but starving by 6 was the glory of God. So despite the silence from fish-gaping mouths and eyebrows arched high like the Howrah Bridge, I calmly pleaded what it was that I wished for, to punch Mother Teresa in the gut. Three more. My life is kind of blown up in my face lately, as I said to Roger before. And this is part of the fallout of that. It's called My Mesopotamian Beard. Before the chemotherapy, you wanted that one tight curl from the underside of my Mesopotamian beard. It was a compact spiral, a helix, a ring, and I said no. And I'm not sure why I said no now. Superstitious fear of the treatment to come, pretending the loss couldn't possibly happen to me, but I said no. I had so much anger, all misplaced, about cancer and loss and fear. All anger is fear misplaced, fear about you and I, and death and depression, and it all came out sideways. It was just one small no in a long series of no's in a life meant for yes. And it might be the no I regret the most. After the chemotherapy, after my Mesopotamian beard disappeared, it returned. And once again, there's that small spiral just under my chin. My Mesopotamian beard returned, and I can only wonder if I'd given it to you as a talisman. A small, small curl in a small, small box or a locket to hang around your swan song neck. If you'd still be here with me now, and this house would still be a home. All right, two more. This one's called Molly Bloom Could Be My Patron Saint. I want a mantra like Molly Bloom. Yes, yes, yes. I want to wrap myself in affirmation, buoyed by yesness, buffered against the sandpaper reality, rasping at my skin in a cotton cloud cocoon of yes. I want to moan and croon, yes, like a Molly Bloom memory of love, sex, and yes, Dublin afternoons, Andalusian blooms, and Moorish wall kisses, and yes, mountainside flowers in bloom. I want to kiss the world like Molly Bloom's breasts. Yes, yes. I want to be taken like Molly Bloom's breath. Yes, yes, yes. All right, last one. Again, I want to thank you all. You're a fucking great audience. This is a great venue. Thank you, Jonathan, Roger, everybody. I'm really thrilled to be here. Thank you. I always wanted to translate a poem by Rumi, hampered only by the fact that I don't speak Farsi. So this is a translation of a poem by Rumi. And I suggest you do this. Find a poem you like that you don't like the translation of. Do it yourself. What the fuck? Anyway, translation of a poem by Rumi. If someone asks how the perfect cusp of our love lust will look, lift your face and say, like this. When someone mentions the star sky grace, climb up on the roof and dance and say, like this. If anyone wants to know what essence is, or what's the celestial scent, lean your head in. Keep your face there, close, like this. When someone seduces with an old poetic trope, with clouds gradually undraping the moon, slowly, unknot by knot, the lace of your robe, like this. If anyone asks how Jesus, Lazarus the dead, don't explain the miracle, kiss me on the lips, like this, like this. When someone questions, die for love, point here. If someone asks how tall I am, frown, count the finger spans between the furrows on your forehead. This tall. Souls sometimes spiral bodies. When someone doesn't believe, walk back into my house like this. When lovers moan, they sing our story like this. I am a sky, spirit-filled. Stare into this deep and blue as breezes sussur us a secret like this. When someone asks what to do, ignite the candle in his hand like this. How did Joseph ascend to Jacob? How did Jacob's sight recede? A zephyr cleans the eye like this. When sun returns from Tabriz, he'll peek his head just around the door jamb to surprise us like this. Thank you. Thank you all so much.